So hello everyone, this is our first video on online Charcha, and today we have the guest Aravind Muralidharan sir. They had cracked their GMAT in 2020 with 780 score, and they are currently working in the McKinsey Private Limited as an implementation consultant. So can we start, sir, now?
Yeah, Pushkar, you can start.
Okay. So sir, when you are decided to give the GMAT, and why only GMAT rather than the other exam?
Yeah, so I decided to give it around 2019. In my first attempt, I think I gave had around like 700 or something. But GMAT is quite competitive, and you need to have around 720 plus to actually get into good colleges in India, if you have like a general engineering background per se. So I wanted to give it another attempt, and I was able to crack it in the second, and I was able to get a 730. As to the question on why GMAT and not any other exam, so basically there are two kind of programs, MBA programs that run in the country, right? One is the 2-year MBAs, and the other one is the 1-year MBA. So 2-year MBAs are more for people with lesser work experience in the 0 to 2-year age bracket, and it is more inclined towards getting like a entry level job to a very good international MNCs and other companies, right? Across consulting, finance, operations, or any group leadership programs like in Mahindra or HUL or all these great companies. But once you have around 4+ years of experience like I do, it makes more sense for you to go for a 1-year program rather than the 2, majorly because you aim to jumpstart, or you aim to like go a little up in your career, and not exactly spend a lot of time in the entry stages of things, right? So that's one of the major reasons why I wanted to give the 1-year program, for which GMAT was necessary and not any other exams. So yeah, Pushkar, to answer your question, why GMAT?
So sir, now when you are preparing, I think you are working in an MNC company. So how you manage your work and how you manage your consistency in the exam?
Got it. So it was very tough, to be honest. And GMAT, it's a kind of exam which requires you to practice a lot more than have intellectual capability or anything like that. So there are a lot of books that you need to practice for, and you need to set a time apart for yourself to practice that, and you need to have a good environment to support you for that as well. For my example, I was working in NRB Barrings, where I had to work for 6 days a week, out of which I was traveling almost 120 kilometers every day from Aurangabad to Jalna, right? So I got only Sunday to work on or study the GMAT exam completely. Whereas for every other weekday, I was able to spend an hour or hour and a half studying the concepts, right? So time management is very, very necessary. And secondly, you need to know the right resources to capitalize on, prepare for the exam.
So what are the right resources, sir? Like what are the books anyone has to prepare, or how he can prepare?
So see, for preparation part, there are 3 ways to look at it. One, the GMAT itself, gives you some kind of questions to prepare from. If you go onto the website, you will find some resources there itself. Example, there will be some mock tests and free questionnaires, and then there will be paid questions as well. So, but then these are the closest replica of the exam itself. So my number one choice would be to practice from that particular unit, right? The GMAT official website, right? The second resource that you should look into are the books, the official guides. So there are 3 books that you should get. Official OG, they usually call it OG, official guide of the latest year. So now it's 2023. So the revision for 2024 would be out, I think, by now. So official guide, then official guide quantitative, and official guide verbal. So there's one official, which is a combination of these two. And there are separate books for each module as well. So there'll be totally 3 books that you should get for sure. So this is like a question bank of all the things that has been asked in the GMAT in the past, right? So it is a close replica of how the exams, questions in the exams will be asked. Of course, it won't be the same, but it will be close enough. The third kind of resource that you should look into is any online coaching programs that you should you could try based on the initial mock test that you will give from the website that I talked about earlier in the first point, right? So you give your mock test in the first point, you see if you can get around 620, 650 in your mock test. If you do well and good, you can just follow what I said in the second point and you'll be able to crack it. But if you're like me, who couldn't score even 600 in the first mock test, then it means that you need an extra little bit of support in terms of coaching and how to think. Because see, as Indians, you will be able to perform your quantitative aspect really well, but it is a little difficult to, kind of have a command over the English or the verbal abilities that GMAT expects you to have. So I took help of this online website called eGMAT. I subscribed to their plan. So I purchased both their quantitative and verbal question bank and coaching methodologies. So that's how I was able to prepare for the GMAT.
Okay. And so what type of syllabus is there? Like quantitative aptitude is there, and other parts, how to prepare for that one also?
Okay, so it's just basic 12th standard mathematics. It's nothing college level, even college level for that matter. It's not even like something like a calculus or some differential equations or something like that. It's probably even not even 12th in that matter. It's probably just 10th, right? Basic geometry, basic algebra. So this is with respect to quantitative aspects. Then there are two types of questions that are asked. One is plain and simple question and answer type, which is they ask some kind of a mathematical question and you are asked to answer that particular answer. Say, for example, what is 1 plus 2 equal to? Then there'll be four options: 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So the second type of question is the data sufficiency questions, which means that they'll kind of give you a question, and for example, they will ask you, say, you x plus y equal to 5. So they want you to know what is x and y are, correct? So if I tell you x into y equal to 5, will you be able to find the what is x and y from given the first equation, the second equation? So you don't have to actually get the answer of what is x and y. You should just figure out if you can get the answer given the two questions that are given, right? So these are the two types of questions that you are asked in the GMAT. Once you go through them, you will be able to understand a little bit better. So this is with respect to the quantitative part. For the verbal part, there is no syllabus per se. It's more about, there are three different kinds of questions that will be asked. One is the critical reasoning, where there will be a proposition or a conclusive statement given, based on which there will be a bunch of questions that will be asked. And if the questions actually have any logical reasoning or a connection with the premise statement that was given earlier. So, for example, sorry, I'm not able to think of any particular example right now, but so that is with respect to critical reasoning. The second one will be the reading comprehension, which is, like everybody knows, there will be a big passage, and based on that passage, there will be questions asked on that particular passage, and there will be multiple choices you need to select it from. And the third kind of question is the sentence correction, which is more grammatical. For example, it would be like, you and I was going to shop earlier, right? So you need to understand that you and I cannot be was, you and I has to be are going to shop earlier, right? So that's how the grammatical angle of English would be checked.
Okay. And what is the minimum score is required to get admission into the IIMA? What is the procedure for that one after the exam?
Got it. So it depends upon your profile. So GMAT score alone doesn't warrant admission call from any of the IIMs. Majorly, if you're targeting ABC, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, and one more school, which is ISB. So these are the 4 prominent schools in India which accept GMAT scores for their 1-year programs. And if you if you are aiming to get into these colleges and you have a engineering background with, say, a manufacturing, any, say, conventional field that is a part of, then your GMAT score would need to be a little bit on the higher side, say 720 plus, so that you fall in the 99th percentile of, or 96th percentile of your other people, right? So almost, when I say percentile, it means you fall in the top 5% of the test takers of GMAT, so that you can set yourself apart at least on the on your academic level, right? So if you already have like a 9 GPA in your undergrad, or you have like a 12th marks where you are 95%, 96%, whatever. So that shows a clear trend of academic qualification, which is most often checked by most of the universities who are taking into MBA into qualification. The second part that is being checked, when I said, is profile. It means how distinctive are you with respect to other candidates who apply, right? So everybody has their own unique story to tell. Even though you and me, Pushkar, we have been engineers in NRB Barings, right? We both still have like a very different stories, even if we are shared the same shop floor experience. You have gone into more data analytics, quantitative, storyboarding experience that you have right now. Whereas I have been in the people manufacturing, people managing business later on, right? So even though our backgrounds have been the same, our journeys have been different. And it is important to showcase who you are and see if it aligns with what the universities want from you, and also to kind of build your future along the path that you want. For example, I wanted to get into consulting mainly because I wanted to face a lot of different scenarios or sectors and different problem statements. Whereas in NRB Barings, I was constantly looking at the production cost related activities. Whereas I also wanted to look at a strategic mapping of how an organization need to be shaping up to, say, implement IoT 4.0, right? So what kind of success factors should be measured, or should be a prerequisite in a firm to understand if it will really work out. So all these kind of questions needed a really strategic mind to think about it, and that's why I wanted to get into consulting. So that's what I wrote in my essay as well. Like, in the future, I wanted to get into consulting. So yeah, these are like the prerequisites apart from just the exam score that is required to get into B schools.
Okay. And is there an interview procedure in for taking the admission into the IIMs, and how to tackle with that one?
Got it. So see, after the exam, you kind of apply to various B schools of your choosing, right? And after that, there's a screening, either a telephonic screening or kind of, essay writing, and all those things will be asked. And in the essays, they predominantly will be asking you like, what are the best qualities about you? What makes you stand apart? So you need to really bring your story together, like I mentioned. Even though multiple people might be sharing the same background, but their journeys will be different. So make sure you are able to bring your story, your journey into the essays part, right? And the second question would be about why MBA, and you need to have like a clear vision of why you're doing an MBA, apart from just saying that you need a salary increase, right? That's not a primary reason why you're doing an MBA. That's a derivative of what you're trying to achieve with an MBA. It is going to happen, but that is not why you should do an MBA. There are multiple ways to earn money than just doing an MBA, right? Why do you need to invest 25 lakhs to 30 lakhs to do an MBA just to earn 30 lakhs per year? Okay. So the journey needs to be a little bit more broader than that. For me, it was about solving bigger business problems by getting into consulting. For others, it might be starting an entrepreneurial journey, and they needed the basic skill sets like design thinking, community building, financial structuring. So all these things are taught in the B school. So they want to have like an exposure to that. Whereas for some people, it is more for like a to build a community or a network for themselves, to set themselves up for the future. Because IIM, ABC, and ISB, these schools generate so many CXOs in India, right? So the network is going to grow larger and larger, and you need to tap into. So these are multiple stories of why you want to do an MBA, and you can align yourself with one of these stories, and you can go ahead with it. So that is the essays part. The third round that will come would be for the interview round. The first is GMAT, second is essays, and the third is the interview. The interview for ISB, it would be taken by mostly by the alumni. So people who have graduated from ISB 3 years, 4 years in the past would come back to kind of take interview and see if you are fit to be part of the ISB community. Whereas for IIMs, it's mostly taken by professors. The ISB interviews are usually more friendlier, more conversational than IIMs, because the professors are going to be really more like pushing you a little harder. So you might feel pushed into a corner, but it's just a way to test how prepared you are for an interview. So yeah, there are 3 steps to getting an admission from.
Okay. So, sir, can fresher give the GMAT for getting the admission into the IIM, or any industrial experience is required for that one?
Got it. So see, no, like all the 1-year programs, you need to have minimum 2 years of experience with ISB. For ISB, but for IIMs, you need minimum 4 years of experience. So freshers cannot pursue 1-year MBAs. That's why the CAT is designed. CAT is for people, CAT, SNAP, ZAT, and all those exams are for people who have are relatively fresh, right? So they will be able to. Those programs are designed mostly for them, whereas these 1-year programs are designed for people with more experience. So that's why it's just a 1-year program and not a 2-year program. Because if you think about it, the second year, I don't know. So there's something called an opportunity cost. The second year, if you invest in learning again, you're not earning anything in that second year, right? Whereas you're paying your fees for that. So say, for example, I paid 25 lakhs in the first year itself, whereas in the second year, instead of studying again, I have joined work and I'm earning that 25 lakhs back. Whereas if I see my 2-year counterparts, they're paid 13 lakhs in the first year and 13 lakhs in the second year, but they haven't earned anything in the second year, right? Only in the third year, they'll be able to get something back. So that's called the opportunity cost. So I am not losing on that opportunity cost for the second year. So the fresh, like you mentioned, you will need experience, but you can still give the GMAT. The GMAT, like you said, the question was, is GMAT, can freshers take GMAT? Freshers can absolutely take GMAT. It's an exam. That's it. That it doesn't require any qualification. But to get an admission, then you will need some 3 years of work experience. So your GMAT is valid for about 4 to 5 years. Please look it up. But I think it's valid for 5 years. So if the earlier you take, it's better for you, because you won't be in the constant pressure to give your GMAT again later on in the years. Because once you're in the college phase, it's very easy for you to like stretch yourself and finish your GMAT. Because once you're in working environment like me or Pushkar, who are traveling like 120 kilometers every day from Aurangabad to Jalna, so you might be hard pressed for time. So you might not be able to complete it on time. So it's better to start earlier and give the GMAT earlier. Sure.
Okay, sir. And sir, what is the syllabus after taking the admission into the IIM?
Okay. See, the syllabus is in IIM there are about five terms, I think. 5 to 6 terms. I think 5 terms. So in the 5 terms, the first 2 are mostly core subjects like finance, marketing, operations, HR, organizational behaviors. So all these things are kind of common core subjects that everybody has to take. Then comes term 3, which is like a mostly like a transfer program with foreign universities that IIMs have tied up with, which is hardly for like 2-3 weeks, or not 2-3 weeks, probably 3-4 weeks. So after that, you come back for term 4 and 5, and term 4 and 5 is full of electives. So mostly full of electives. There are a couple of core subjects there as well. So in the electives, one advantage of doing from IIM is you have a grades NDA. You don't have to disclose your grades to your recruiters, right? So when they come to campus, so you don't have to worry about marks when you're in IIM. So you can pursue your subjects of your choosing, of your choice. So I come from a pure operational background. I come from a manufacturing background. I've been in production shop floor. But then most of the subjects I had taken, if you see, they had covered mostly marketing and data analytics side of things, right? Because I was willing to experiment with things even if I don't get a good mark out of it. So for me, it was more about a learning opportunity because out of college, it's going to be very difficult to learn something new. But once you're in college, you can take those chances. So the syllabus is what you make out of it. There's going to be multiple things. For example, there's one syllabus, one course called the Hitchhiker's Guide to India, right? So where in the millennial past, what kind of business decisions were taken at each point of time that affected social interactions of people in India or even in the world. So these are some out of the blue courses that you will also see in IIM campuses, which you have never imagined in your engineering or any other mainstream education you have done in the past.
Okay. And what is the most remembered thing is to the IIM?
For like in any college experience you've had, it's almost always the most memorable experience you'll ever have is with your friends, your late night chats. If you have been in hostels, you would know that that's the most treasured moments that you'll ever have with your friends in college, right? So very similar to that, since all MBA programs are residential in nature, thankfully there's no day scholar, hosteler programs. So it's almost always everyone is in the hostel. So you always kind of end up interacting with a lot of people on a daily basis. It is going to be very hectic though. Your classes will run till 8 p.m. in the night. Then you'll rush for your dinner time. You'll come back. You might not have enough time to even sleep because you have assignments loaded up. So it's very, very strenuous. Even Saturdays and Sundays, you will have classes or assignments or tests to prepare for. But the most memorable thing that you'll ever have is the friends that you surround yourself with.
And what is the thing that you didn't like into the IIM?
There's nothing that I didn't like. I did from IIM Ahmedabad, so it was a dry state. So um, we had to manage with what we have been given. So yeah, that was one uh, bad or a bad experience or whatever you can call it. You can, yeah, that was one thing. Probably IIM Bangalore, IIM Calcutta folks would have been doing a much better job at that.
Yeah. And can you share some experimental projects or experiment that you had work in IIM, industrial
Yeah,
experiment?
sure. Sure. While at IIM, I was part of this internship with this startup called Coin Earth. So Coin Earth, coin, coin with a K in the beginning. So Coin Earth is a startup that focused on building blockchain technologies, and they wanted use cases to be developed for them where they can use blockchain for other um, um, places where they could take that particular prototype of their Ethereum network that they could leverage to other organizations. They were holding a supply chain manufacturing digital tool that they were using to sell to local SCM operators, supply chain operators, right? So what happens is that in the blockchain network, there's no tampering of inventories that happen. So what flows in, what flows out is entirely captured through RFIDs, through weighing scales. So there's no human interaction in the entire end-to-end supply chain, the value chain units. So that the blockchain that we're using for SEM, they wanted to use the same blockchain network or something else. So I had come in to give a go-to-market strategy to start using blockchain network for carbon trading. So we proposed a kind of a partnership with another firm, which I can't name because of privacy reasons, to get into partnership who are already in carbon trading business in India. And they were very much willing to get on board with the technology to onboard all their paper carbon credit transactions onto the Ethereum board, so a network. So that kind of worked very well, and I was very excited to work on that project. Yeah.
Okay. And sir, how anyone have to work on their resume? Like the one is industrial experiment. What are the other things is required for taking the admission to the IIM?
Okay. So see, if you are a fresher, then there's not a lot of scope that you have to work around in your resume because you're just out of college. So you might have not a lot of blanks to fill. So make the formats as precise and crisp as possible, because usually nobody is gonna like it if your resume runs over a 1 page or maximum 2 page, right? Like even I don't have a 2 page resume, having what almost 5+ years of experience. Given I've graduated in 2015 and then did a 1 year liberal arts course and 1 year MBA. So I really have almost 5+ years of experience, and still I hold only a 1 page resume, right? So keep your resume as short as possible, and convey your points in action verbs, like you started something, you achieved X% of growth in your organization by by doing YY stuff, right? So make it concise, make it precise, and uh, fill it up. Yeah.
Okay. And sir, this is all about the IIM, but after the GMAT, can anybody take the admission into the foreign countries, and what is the procedure for that one?
Correct. So GMAT is a more global test rather than just CAT. CAT is more Indian, right? So GMAT has a worldwide acceptance, and you can aim to get into any program, B school programs abroad also, the same scores, right? But it all depends upon your career aspirations. For me, I did not want to leave India because my parents were here, my history is here, my entire future was here in India. So I didn't want to uproot my all my support systems to somewhere abroad. So I decided to do it from India. Although 3 years, 4 years before, I wasn't the same way. I initially thought that I wanted to do my MBA from USB schools or INSEAD in the Europe, so something like that. So even I wanted to do something like that, but then later I realized this is not what I want to do really, but I wanted to stay in India, right? But with the same scores, you will be able to apply to anywhere in the world. The top 20 schools, you can look it up on the internet, it would come up. The US schools, there are Harvard, Wharton, Chicago Booth, Stanford. So all these colleges are going to be there for the USB schools. For Canada, there is McGill, and there is a bunch of other colleges in Canada as well. Then you can go to Singapore, then there is INSEAD in Singapore, then there is NUS MBA, there's NTU MBA, then the Singapore Management University, SMU, in Singapore. And in European side, if you see, there is London Business School, there is Oxford, there is Cambridge. So the multiple B schools you can, and there's all obviously London Business School, I should have told already. So there are multiple B schools available, and it all depends on your career aspirations. But the GMAT, like the procedure I told earlier, is the same. There's going to be a GMAT, there's going to be a essay, and there's going to be an interview.
Okay. And what quality should the students have to take the GMAT? How he can decide that I have to give the GMAT only?
Okay. So you don't need to have any quality per se. I mean, anybody can take an exam. It's just like the same way people have taken CAT in the past. GMAT is still the same. It's just oriented. You need to think about it for sure, because CAT is highly competitive, given the fact that almost 5 lakh people take the test every year, and and there are hardly 400. Say the IIMA has 400 seats, I think, and so there are A, B, C, six. So six. So there are almost 4,000, 2,400 good seats, and even if you go to new IIMs, then there will be something, say 4,000 odd good seats, right? So which is almost which is not even which is not which is 0.1% of your total people who are writing CAT. So I said 5 lakh, and if you say 4,000 seats are only there, it's almost like 0.1% of what is available out there. So why take such a competitive exam and break your um, break your entire future career because of that, while you can very well do a GMAT, keep the scores valid for 5 years, and even expand your thinking beyond the just the Indian subcontinent. You can even go abroad, or even in India, there are multiple other good B schools which do accept scores in with the GMAT, right? So yeah, what was the question again? Sorry.
I'm asking what quality should be the students have to crack the GMAT? How he can
Correct.
decide like I have to do only the GMAT?
Yeah. So the qualities, you just have to manage your time. Quantitative abilities has to be sharpened, and third would be verbal. Verbal abilities is another skill that you should acquire. You can do that by reading books, reading the newspaper more consistently. Yeah, having that kind of a comfort level would really give you edge. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, can you please provide some guidance to the student they are preparing for the GMAT?
Guidance. Huh. So listen, it's not a very difficult exam, right? So let me break my advice or guidance down to two different kind of folks. Say people who have been getting, say, less than 650 or something like that in their GMAT mock GMAT test, and people who are getting more than that, right? So people who are getting less than 650, my guidance would be like, ensure that you keep track of where you're going wrong. So don't just keep practicing it without thinking that you'll get it right sometime in the future. You will not know why you are getting it wrong in the first place, so you will not know if you're doing something right in the future also. So also always ensure that you have a log of error log. So we call it an error log. So you note down what exact mistake you're making, and you kind of have a memory of where you have exactly gone wrong, right? So you will be able to correct them in the future. So always maintain this error log with you. So that will be my guidance for the less than 650 folks. Also, please do take a mock test every once in a week, and take it in the real test conditions, like not pause the exam, don't go on the internet, uh, just don't do anything that you wouldn't do if you have been taking an exam, a real exam, that at that particular point of time. So when you do that, you kind of calibrate yourself of what you're actually capable of, and no surprises would be there when you actually take an exam, GMAT exam, which is very, very expensive. So taking it once itself is going to set you back by definitely like 20 to 30,000. So make sure that you prepare your mock tests also accordingly. So take the mock test seriously, and give them also in a real test environment. So for the people above 650, good going for you. I'm very sure that when you write the GMAT, actual GMAT, you will be able to do much, much better than your mock tests. Still, my advice for you guys would be in the time management, because when in the thick of things, what happened to me in my first attempt was that there was one question I was totally stumped by, and I said it set me back by 2-3 minutes, and I was never able to recover those minutes, right? So always ensure that you are on top of the time that you have been allocated. So if you're not able to answer a particular question on time, skip it, or you can, I mean, you can't skip a question in GMAT. You can even mark it wrong and move on to the next question, but it's very, very essential that you don't go beyond your actual time limit. You're not never going to get that question right anyway. So if your average time taken to answer a particular question is 1.5 minutes, so if you've taken 2 minutes for a particular question to answer and you still aren't able to crack it, then I would suggest you to like skip that question and move on to the next one, because you're never going to get it right. So that's my advice. Time management is going to be my advice for people who are getting above 650 on their mock tests.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for joining with us and guiding the student, those who are preparing for the GMAT. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Have a
Pushkar.
nice day.
Yeah,
Bye, sir.
you too.